NFC West. And before we kick off the show, I just got to say, Eric, thanks for that wonderful rendition of Himalayan throat singing on the final countdown. Thank you very much for that. That was a fantastic little touch to the open of our show. But I digress. Let's start it off with the LA Rams. Uh, how do you see them defending their division title last year? Uh,
Well, in my eyes, the Rams, they're still going to be a very good team. They still got Golf, Woods, Cup should be coming back. Cooks is still there. I mean, the Rams' offense is still the Rams' offense. Their defense, in my opinion, I don't think they lost too much. Let me check my notes here real quick. No, I mean they lost Lamarcus Joyner, but and they've added in Eric Weddle. So I mean, to be there, I mean maybe a slight downgrade only because Weddle is older and he's coming into this defense. I mean, Sue's not there anymore, but he really didn't. He wasn't that game changer you expected from them last year. I mean, he produced, but
he was a body on the interior line. I mean,
pretty much.
it was another guy to kind of shield Donald in a way. From what I saw, it kind of allowed Donald to just free himself up and get those one-on-one matchups and just wreak havoc on quarterbacks. Don't you think?
Right, and but they drafted Greg Gaines, and basically for what Sue did, if Greg Gaines could actually bring just a portion of that to if he gets into the rotation this year on defensive line, then you know Donald should still be able to go off and get to the quarterback. But as far as the Rams actually someone upseeding them to take this division from them, I just can't see it. I mean, the bigger question is, will the Super Bowl hangover, if it's actually, I mean, a lot of people think it's a myth, but then you have your ones that think it's actually true. But the question is, will the hangover of losing the Super Bowl, and will the Rams try too hard during the season?
Well,
I mean, what?
that's a very real possibility. I mean, look at their piss poor performance in the Super Bowl. I mean, their defense stepped up and did a hell of a job, but their offense was lackluster. I mean, it was pretty uneventful, and you could tell that could possibly weigh heavily on such a young team.
And a young coach as well, because McVay he took that performance to me personally because it's like he game planned he over game planned, if I should say, and the fact that Belichick's defensive game plan was able to have its way with his offensive game plan. To me, it's like he's got to prove now that Belichick's ideas and what he did for a game plan in the Super Bowl was a fluke because these teams looked at that game tape this all season and it was like, okay, well, how can this work for us when we play the Rams this year? You know? So, I mean, Keith, I mean, did you think that, will teams be able to game plan against, use that game plan against the Rams effectively this year? Will the Super Bowl hangover get them, or what do you think?
I'm not one to fully believe in the Super Bowl hangover. I don't think that they're. I mean, nobody in their division is really gonna like keep with them, but I still think that even if defenses start, being able to slow down that high octane offense, I feel like the mind that McVay is, he'll find a way to counteract that, and they'll get back into the groove that they were in last year, and like going forward, they're just like set up well in that division to potentially run it for quite a while.
Yeah. Well, so along with the Super Bowl hangover and all that stuff for the Rams, there's two major questions on that team, and one is Cooper Cup, and the other one is Todd Gurley. What are your guys' takes on those two guys?
I love them both, but Gurley's knee is obviously going to be um, important to factor like throughout the season and like how they rest him and everything, because him being so young and the amount of money they're paying him to begin with, like it's going to be important that they keep him fresh, but also like let him show that he's still the Todd Gurley of old. And Cup, he wasn't really like a speed type of guy. So like I feel like, I mean, obviously like breaking in his cuts in and out because he's like a possession receiver, it'll factor in. But I still think that he'll be right back to who he was before.
Yeah, and
To me,
go ahead, Eric.
oh, go ahead. To me, Cooper Cup, he's more of the wild card of going into the season for the Rams, because if you notice last year when he was in the lineup and then when he got injured, to me the Rams, they lost that step to me offensively when Cup went down. It's like Cup to me is the driving force behind that offense to be everything that they want it to be. If the Rams had Cooper Cup in the Super Bowl, the Rams would have had the Lombardi Trophy, and the Rams would be playing on the opening Sunday night of the season this year. Just because, and I feel like Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl last year saw that as well, where he looked at game film of the Rams when Cooper Cup was there, and then he looked at game film of what the Rams were doing once Cup was gone, and I feel like Cooper Cup was just that missing factor in the Super Bowl, and he to me this season is going to be a lot more. I mean, don't get me wrong, Todd Gurley is going to be very important, and if they have him healthy, he's going to eat this year. But Cooper Cup is going to basically, to me, be that catalyst that's going to determine just how good this Rams offense is going to be, and how far the Rams can really get this year. If that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And ultimately, what I see is Cooper Cup was a great safety blanket for Goff. Goff being such a young quarterback, it's always nice to have that wide receiver that just kind of knows where to be on the field at any given point in time and is there and ready for you to throw the ball to him. And that's what Cup seemed to do quite well. And without him on the team, they seem to kind of falter a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what he's like when he's back, because he does have to make those quick cuts. He does have to make, he does have to run around the field quite a bit. So with his injury and having to come back and be that type of receiver, it's going to be a matter of whether or not he trusts his knee or not. So if he does come back and he starts trusting his knee, I mean, all things point to him being the Cooper Cup of last year prior to the injury.
Right.
From what I see from Gurley, there's a lot of concerning things, because I mean he was pretty much shut down in the Super Bowl. He kind of had a lackluster tail end of the season, and when a running back starts to really have issues with their knees and not be able to play the full game, that's when you start worrying about their career being over. And Gurley's such a young and bright spot for the Rams, and he's a phenomenal running back, but there's only so much a body can take, and with him having these knee issues, I think it's arthritis is what they're saying that he might have in his knees or something like that.
That's right.
That stuff doesn't go away. You can't just do a treatment for arthritis. I mean, that's with you for life. And I know what it's like. I know I've got like arthritis in my hip. I feel it every day. So stuff like that doesn't just go away. You can't forget about it. You can't just play through the pain. I mean, you can, but there's only so much your body can take before it's just enough is enough. And Gurley seems like one of those guys that won't put his body on the line to the point where he hinders his life down the road. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those two going forward. And, honestly, the Rams have got a great team. They've got a great coach. Everything points to them being just as dominant as they were last year. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to have that that mythical Super Bowl hangover. So, enough.
And to add on And to add on to your point real quick about Gurley as well, I mean, you got to look at what they have behind him at running back, and right now, from what I see on their roster, the Rams have 3 unproven running backs behind them. So if he can't stay healthy, one of these guys are going to have to come in, actually be productive, and because if not, you're going to then hit Jared Goff is going to have to shoulder the entire load of the offense. So if Gurley's not healthy, Cup's not able to come in and be himself right off the bat. Now, and C.J. Anderson, he's a Lion now, so he was that real security blanket as well in the ground game last year through the playoff run. But it's like this year, what do you have behind Gurley? And I mean, Woods and Cooks are good, but you saw in the Super Bowl that they were basically null and void.
Honestly, I wouldn't worry about that because I was having this discussion today with Austin. And honestly, my opinion is running backs are a dime a dozen. If you've got a good scheme and a good coach, you're going to be able to work a running back into the system. It may not be to the level of what Gurley is in his prime or in his healthy state, but I'm pretty sure that they could supplement. I mean, they made C.J. Anderson a decent running back in their system. I think they can make any running back in their system decent. I mean, when's the last time you were like, well, a team lost C.J. Anderson, they might have some issues with depth then. Nobody's ever uttered that phrase in their life. So, honestly, I think they can overcome that no matter what, as long as McVay schemes appropriately for that deficiency. But
that's a fair point, but I mean, he had that. Well, I guess because like you said, they had C.J. Anderson in the Super Bowl, and that didn't work out well for them. So, fair point.
yeah, well, Belichick just schemes so well versus
Anybody.
other teams. I mean, you can't really hold that as like the actual baseline for how a team will do without Gurley or how they will do without Gurley. It's just Belichick is really good about just screwing your team over, no matter what the deficiency is. So
True.
all right, well, moving on. Let's talk about these Seahawks and what their outlook is looking like. I know they came in second last year, barely made it into the playoffs, and I mean they've still got Russell Wilson, but they've kind of got rid of some of their pieces. No more Earl Thomas, no more Frank Clark.
No more Legion of Boom. Period.
Yeah, Legion of Boom is completely done, which is sad. I mean, that defense was quite scary a couple of years ago, and now it's just like, well, who do they really have? So let's start off with you, Keith. What do you see happening for the Seahawks this year?
This year's a little more difficult for them just because with Wilson getting his huge payday, and it's obviously deserved, but at the same time, it's going to be tough to build around him because they don't, like, their draft picks are hit or miss. They're not one of the organizations that, like, always hits theirs or anything like that, or, like, hits majority. So they're going to have to find people they're going to have to draft well, but also have to find players that aren't that are playing for less money than like other teams would pay them and such, and it's just difficult to be in the same division as the Rams but not have the depth or anything like that to fully compete with them. So this year is going to be not a transition year, but I think that it'll be more of like a middle of the road type of team year for them.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, they really only added the big key ones were Ziggy Ansah and Mike Upati. Yeah, they didn't really add much in free agency, and then they lose out on Frank Clark and Earl Thomas and Justin Coleman and Mike Davis. Mike Davis isn't the biggest loss in the world, and they could definitely survive that, but their draft was kind of all over the board. I mean, they did get another edge rusher with L.J. Collier. Their pick of DK Metcalf was kind of head-scratching considering that they really need another wide receiver on that team. And DK Metcalf is more of a project. I thought he was going to go to more of a team that has a solid wide receiver core and that he can kind of learn how to integrate into the NFL and work on the finer points of his game because he's kind of a one-trick pony.
Yep.
So with the draft of him, that kind of was an interesting pick, or more of a head-scratching pick as far as the Seahawks are concerned. But they did get Gary Jennings. They did get another guard, and they did pick up another linebacker in Ben Burkeven. It'll be interesting to see what they do this year. What are your thoughts about the Hawks, Eric?
Remember how in our last podcast, Keith had that prediction about the Patriots about how they were going to go 6-10?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like about the Seahawks. I mean, they didn't. To me, their additions and their subtractions. If you put them on a scale, I feel like they lost more than they gained. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Seattle's going to just bomb out this year because they're not. But I just feel like that mystique that Seattle had, where it seemed like if the game was on the line or if you weren't sure who was going to win this game, then most likely pick Seattle because they would pull it off. I don't feel like they're going to have that benefit to their advantage this year. I mean, they got a damn good ground game. And if they get ahead, they're going to basically be able to keep the lead because, yeah, Mike Davis left, but Rashad Penny was drafted basically to be damn, stumble over my words here.
Get it together,
But to be
Eric.
but he was drafted to be an important piece of this offense. And so, that right there, to me, Davis leaving isn't that big of a deal. But it's if they fall behind, Doug Baldwin, he's not there anymore. I mean, it's basically the Tyler Lockett show when it comes to the passing game. I mean, who's that tight end that they had? Like Will Dissly. Last year, I mean, he was becoming a big part early, then he got injured. I mean, will he be able to come back and produce at least somewhat near the level he did last year? Because if Seattle gets behind, to me, they don't have the defense that could hold anymore, that could give Wilson and the offense a chance to come back and win. And I just feel like they're playing a second-place schedule this year, which... Let me see, who do they have on that schedule? They have... Well, they'll beat Cincinnati. Sorry, David. That's just going to happen.
Everybody beats Cincinnati. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, everybody marks W down on their calendar when they see that come out.
But they've got the Rams. They've got twice. They got the Falcons. They've got what could be an improved San Francisco team. They've got the Saints. These are teams that your defense, to me, you at least need to have the ability to feel like that they can get a stop. And I just don't feel like Cincinnati. Damn it, Cincinnati. I don't feel like Seattle is gonna be able to hold, to stop these teams enough to the point where the offense is gonna be able to keep up with them.
No, I'm definitely with you on that. I mean, it kind of sucks to see because Seattle, in recent memory, has always been one of those teams that you got to worry about, playing. And nothing really jumps out at you as them being a team you should fear, which really is kind of sucks because usually it used to be like if you were facing Seattle, you knew you had a tough test ahead of you. And now it's kind of like, well, what do we really have to fear about anymore? I mean, they don't have the Legion of Boom. Their offense is very lackluster outside of Russell Wilson. And there's only so much Russell Wilson can do to progress a team with no weapons at all. So, I mean, it's like, sure, they could be good because they do still have Russell Wilson, but at the same time, they could be terrible because they have nobody around Russell Wilson. Because I don't trust Penny. I don't trust Tyler Lockett to carry the team. I don't trust DK Metcalf to do, anything this year, and maybe even the next couple years. I mean, it might be closer to his second contract that he might actually develop into something formidable on the field. So there's nothing really that stands out to me about this team.
And Wagner can only
go ahead.
And Wagner can only do so much.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's you're putting a lot on two people essentially, and that doesn't usually work out in the end. One person on each side of the ball can only do so much, and sure, they're two of the more critical positions on a football team, but at the same time, they can't play every position. They can't do everything themselves. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, we could all be wrong. I mean, some of these guys that they picked up and some of these younger guys that they drafted could turn out to be, the second comings of, great players. But we really don't know. But from what we're given at this point in time, I don't see a lot happening from them. So it sounds like we're all kind of in agreement that the Hawks are kind of like this. They could be a sub 500 team, or they could be flirting with 500 this year, just because they don't really have much around them. Moving on to the most interesting team in the division, the Arizona Cardinals, the ones that I think could be the laughing stock of the league for years to come because of moves that they made this year.
And before Max goes on any further, if you want a backstory of to why Max feels like this, go back and listen to our very first episode, and that should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, that'll give you a great backstory on my thoughts and feelings on the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray and Kliff Kingsbury. Yeah, check that out. You'll understand. But going into this episode, I mean, we get a better picture about what they're doing and what they've lost, what they've gained, and kind of get a general idea of what we might be looking at for the season. So, Eric, what's your outlook on the Arizona Cardinals? Well, that's it. That's all we need to know. That laugh explains it all.
I mean, this team is in such disarray because, I mean, last year you brought in a new coach and a new quarterback. You give them 1 year, and then you just decide, oh, nope, okay, next. So now you bring in Kliff Kingsbury, you bring in Kyler Murray, and you bring eyeballs to your team somewhat early in the year, but, I mean, Arizona is just in such disarray right now. It's like, okay, so what if they go 3-13 again or 4-12 this year? Do you fire Kingsbury? Do you say, all right, Kyler Murray, go play baseball because you're not going to be a franchise quarterback in this league, and did you start fresh again next year? I mean,
man, I see 3-13 or 4-12 as a success for them because that's above where I put them. I mean, they're continue, but that's how I feel.
And David Johnson, he's another year older. He's a running back. He's only got so much more time back there himself. And poor Larry Fitzgerald, going into what could be his last season, he's coming back into, I mean, just general disarray here.
Yeah, but somebody in the Cardinals organization needs to trade Larry Fitzgerald to a contender. Send him to the Chiefs, please. We'll get you a Super Bowl. But let the guy go. Let him go get a ring because he deserves it. I mean, he's been through enough with that organization, correct?
Yeah, yes.
More than enough.
I mean, he personally, I think he's one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. I mean, sure, he doesn't have a...
It's not a debate.
Yeah, I mean...
It's literally not a debate.
The guy drops literally, like, no passes at all for as long as his career is. I think I saw some weird stat the other day where he's had more tackles than drop passes in his career.
Yeah.
So...
That's impressive.
I mean, that's phenomenal.
And he's basically had us throwing him the football.
Yeah, exactly. He's had nobody. I mean, he did have Kurt Warner towards the end of his career, which
Yeah.
which is great to have, but he only had that for what 2 or 3 years at the very most, and
Mm-hmm.
and Warner kind of fell off in that last year that he was there with the Cardinals. I mean, and then outside of that, he's had nothing. So to think about all the bad quarterbacks that you've seen in your lifetime, just imagine that being Larry Fitzgerald's career quarterbacks that he's had with him. I mean, and what the man has done in the NFL is simply phenomenal. I mean, you could look back and go like, what if he played with Tom Brady, or what if he played with Ben Roethlisberger? What if he played with even a mediocre quarterback like Alex Smith, or even
Matt
Matt
Stafford.
Stafford or Andy Dalton even. Like I would rather have him on the Bengals with Andy Dalton than I would with the Cardinals, and that's how.
I don't want him to play for the Bengals.
Don't don't
That's
don't you
that's
get
punishment.
don't you get David's
That's
hopes up?
punishment.
We
Yeah,
we
that's punishment.
we are not allowed to get David's hopes up on the show.
We don't need to
Okay.
punish him more.
Well, I mean, they would still lose in the playoffs, but like their first round exit's a guarantee. Uh,
Pretty much.
but even I would rather see Larry Fitzgerald on that team versus suffering with the Cardinals for as long as he's done. It's just sad. I mean, I want to see the man win a ring, and he's definitely not going to do it this year with the Cardinals, and he'll never do it with the Cardinals. So, Arizona, please just send him to a team that has a shot at winning the Super Bowl for once. He deserves it.
And I mean, not only as a player, but look at him off the field. I mean, he's a role model. He does a lot of philanthropy, charitable works. He's a great role model for younger players, and he's one of those ones like how people say that this guy should take this guy under his wing, which he's actually one of those ones though that actually is willing to do that, and show guys basically the right way to come into the league and be an NFL player. And so, like you said, if anybody deserves to be traded to a contender with the chance to get to the Super Bowl, if Larry Fitzgerald was traded to the Patriots and they make it to the Super Bowl and win it this year, I'd be happy for him. That'd be one of the very few cases.
Exact same.
Yeah, I would root for that to happen. Like, I mean, personally, I don't like the Patriots. I don't like a lot of teams. Really, I hate every team in the NFL except for the pretty much the Packers and the Chiefs. So I would root for him just to win a Super Bowl. I wouldn't root for him against one of my teams though, but I would root for him to win if he wasn't playing my team.
All right.
I mean, he deserves it. The guy's a company man. He's a professional. I mean, he's what the NFL wants and needs in this day and age, and he deserves that one crowning moment.
Exactly.
Him and the other guy on the team that really needs to go someplace else is Patrick Peterson, in my opinion. I mean, guy's getting up there in age. Defensive players don't play as long as most other players. So I'd also like to see Patrick Peterson go to a contender because he deserves it as well, because he's been one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. He deserves that kind of Larry Fitzgerald treatment. Last year was kind of awkward. I mean, reports came out that he kind of wanted to be traded, and then the team blocked it, and then he came out and said, "Oh, I don't want to be traded. I'm a I'm a constant Cardinals guy. Like, I want to play on the Cardinals for the rest of my life, or the rest of my career."
Well, he'll definitely be there for those first games that he's got to sit out this year.
Well, yeah, exactly. Is it 4 or 8 games that he's out?
I think it's 4.
Did it get dropped down? Because I think originally it was 8.
I thought it was originally 4, but it maybe it did get dropped down. But
there was something in my head that thought that his PED suspension was 8 games. Don't quote me.
Don't hold us to right now. When it comes to numbers, don't hold us to anything.
Yeah, please don't. I have been drinking. It is like 1:44 in the afternoon here, and I've already had a couple glasses of scotch. So anything that I say will not be used against me.
But Keith,
Yep.
uh, let me ask you this, buddy. When it comes to the Cardinals, like, all right, what do you see Kyler Murray himself being able to do this year?
Hopefully, hit a growth
I think
spurt.
no, that's not gonna happen. I think that he's gonna put up like some ridiculous numbers fantasy wise, but at the same time, I mean they're not gonna win much. But at the same time, he's also gonna have quite a few rookie growing pains. So he's gonna have quite a few turnovers, quite a few games where he doesn't make the right read, and that in a way cost them the game. But I mean he's an immense talent. If Kingsbury's system fits him, like how everybody thinks it will, and obviously because of how from what he came from with Oklahoma and such, it's gonna be interesting to see like if he can fully embrace that whole thing, and then if Kingsbury can get the best out of him.
Did you throw that pass to Kirk? Yes.
Hey,
What did it cost you? Everything.
one question. So, speaking of fantasy point wise, will he have more fantasy points throwing the football or running the football?
Throwing.
Throwing? I'm putting my money on running because he's going to be running for his life.
Oh, he's gonna be running like it's literally out of his mind running. But at the same time, I think that he's gonna still hit probably. Let's assume he plays majority. So let's say like 13 or more games. I think that he's still gonna hit over 3,000 yards. He'll get the 20 touchdowns, maybe 25 or so, and he'll have like 15, 16 picks too. And then he'll probably end up with like 600 rushing yards as well as probably about 8 TDs rushing.
See, I think you're going way overboard on the yardage throwing.
I think you're going well
That's
touchdowns.
Yeah.
On touchdowns running,
I,
but
I thought the touchdowns were a little high, but
so here's what I'm seeing: 1,900 yards throwing, 19 interceptions.
did you say 19?
1,900.
Oh my god.
1,900 yards throwing because he can't see
Good.
over his damn offensive line.
good God.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see. 19 interceptions.
Oof,
That could be closer to truth.
that's fair.
8 touchdowns.
What?
Passing.
Oh, how is he even playing?
8 passing touchdowns. And then he'll have 880 rushing yards, like 9 or 10 rushing touchdowns. And that'll be it.
Oh my good. They're gonna win like -3 games if that's his stat.
Dude, I'm telling you, he's going to be worse than Lamar Jackson at this point.
Oh
if-
my
If,
goodness.
if those were his stats, he should have took that A's money. Cause
Dude,
damn.
Yeah, he's gonna be out of the league quick if that's his rookie season.
Dude,
My
I'm
goodness.
telling you right now, he made the biggest mistake of his life coming into the NFL. He should have gone and played baseball. That is,
No, I can't fault somebody for taking the money.
man, the money's better in baseball. It's all guaranteed.
It's better long term, like whenever he actually gets to the MLB and such. But right now, it's not.
Well, got
Yeah, that's getting beeped. There's no doubt about that.
I apologize.
No, like, but no, there's absolutely. I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020 and all that. Like, he probably won't get the 25 touchdowns that I think that he will and such. But I don't think he's gonna end up with 8
Oh, he's not gonna pass.
if he plays the whole season. Obviously he must not. If that's your thought, is that he's 1,900 yards. Like, literally, pretty much every Cardinals quarterback ever has gotten more than that. Not obviously true, but
let me put it to you all like this: if Mac's prediction comes true, Steve Keim might as well just go ahead and pack his bags right now.
Oh, he can. Kliff Kingsbury can pack his too if that ends up happening.
If you're in the front office or everybody besides the owner and the
Larry
players
better retire like halftime.
and hey, Vontae Davis did it. Don't be shocked if he did.
Yeah, he better retire like halftime if that's the case.
That's
like I
enough.
said,
I'm out. Sorry guys, I shouldn't have came back.
Max got them losing
like
40-0 every game.
Davis did it last year, but no. But like seriously, if that comes true, Max, they all might as well just pack their bags right now and just
I told you before.
halftime.
I told you before. Kliff Kingsbury is not going to be in this league for more than 2 years as a head coach. I mean, he's literally going to be like the quarterbacks coach if he stays in the NFL. He's not going to get another head coaching job. He's not going to work out. He could barely work out at Texas Tech. I mean, come on. I mean, he made this weird jump to the NFL that nobody predicted. It was just awkward as hell. He doesn't belong here as a head coach right now. He needs to earn his dues because he didn't perform well at Texas Tech. And then he goes to USC as an offensive coordinator and takes that job and then quits because he gets offered the head coaching job for the Cardinals. Their run's so bad. It's going to be such a horrendous season for them. Kingsbury, he's not going to be like Sean McVay. He's not going to be like anybody. He's going to be the biggest failure in the NFL this year, and he's got 2 years max, and that's it. And then he's being the water boy for some random team in the MAC. I mean, that's where I see him.
Okay, all right. So let's say that Arizona goes. Let's say Arizona gets to 6 wins. Well, first of all,
there's no way they're getting it with eight touchdowns.
Well, let's go like this. Let me put you like this. If Arizona gets 6 wins, I'm gonna see if I can find Kliff Kingsbury to get him on the show, just so.
He's literally gonna be like a mad genius if they can get to 6.
Dude, if they get to 6, I will eat my words and apologize to Kliff Kingsbury. I will do a whole episode on just how sorry I am about my takes on Kliff Kingsbury. But I'm telling.
Oh, that's gonna be great.
But I'm telling you right now, there's no way in the world that it'll happen. I am sure of this. It is going to be the biggest train wreck we've seen in a long time.
If he plays the whole season, there's no way Kyler only ends up with 8 touchdowns and 19 picks.
Who's their quarterback? Who do they have outside of Kyler Murray?
I don't know the Cardinals. Like, honestly, outside of like 4 players, I couldn't tell you if they actually play for him or not. And most of those are Bleacher Reports, is why I know that.
Hundley.
Well, fair, yeah.
They're not going to supplement Kyler for him.
Well, if he gets hurt, he sort of can't play. That's what I mean by that. Like, if he plays the entire season healthy or whatever, he gets to double-digit touchdowns. He probably still ends up with 19-plus picks or close to it. But there's no way he ends up with just 8. No way. And I don't even really like the guy, but I just don't see how that happens. Like, that's worse than growing pains.
Especially with that schedule they have. I mean,
like, that is worse. He's literally gonna have to throw the ball all the time, like all the time.
But what I'm trying to look at their offensive line depth chart right now because their offensive line.
Oh, it's probably awful.
Their offensive line was horrible last year, and then they even lost their best offensive lineman in Upati.
It's horrible every year. It's just
which means they're not going to have a running game.
They don't. You don't have a running game at Texas Tech.
Well, exactly.
Like,
but then how do you protect a young quarterback in the NFL?
You actually give David Johnson the ball for the first time in, like 2 years.
But that's not Kliff Kingsbury's MO. I mean, he's an air raid guy.
Oh, I'm not saying that like it's gonna happen. I was just answering the question with the answer.
Yeah,
but
I get where you're coming from. Like, I know, like, my prediction is definitely on the way outside of like insanity. But here's the thing.
No, like if it happens, it happens. It's just one of those where it's really different. Like it's one of those where like I now see how y'all felt about my Patriots like thing. Like I fully see it with this.
I
Fully
I
see
would
it
never
with this.
equate this situation to the Patriots situation because like the Patriots are the
Oh,
epitome
you're
of like they're the gold standard, and the Cardinals are like the turd standard at this point.
I'm not. I'm not saying that. I just like they're not gonna win games, but I see more than 8 touchdowns. Like I see more than 1,900 yards too.
Man,
But
in the NFL, I think what the window of separation for an open wide receiver is what, less than a yard.
oh
Yep.
no, like he's gonna be throwing to contested receivers, but that's what Larry does anyway. Like Larry pulls those in.
Well, yeah,
And
but Larry can only do so much.
oh, absolutely.
And then
But
they've got a rookie
like
wide receiver in Andy Isabella, right?
they got two.
Yeah, they have two, and that's Hakeem Butler and Andy
Yeah.
Isabella, and then they've got Christian Kirk. Kirk's
Yeah,
a,
they're gonna be four wide majority of the
yeah,
time.
four wide, but in the NFL, how many? I don't see the air raid working for them. I really don't. Like it makes sense in Kansas City because of the weapons that they have. Because they also have a ground game that can produce. Andy Reid's not afraid to run the ball, but he's also not afraid to throw the ball deep. And then he's got a big, strong arm quarterback that's also mobile and improvises well. Kyler Murray's got a good arm, but I'm not sure about the accuracy, and I'm not sure about his size. I mean, the guy's small.
Oh, nobody's sure about his size.
Exactly. And the last real quarterback that we've seen kind of like him is Doug Flutie. I mean, Russell Wilson's not even like Kyler Murray. I mean, literally, we've got a comparison between Doug Flutie and Kyler Murray. That's what I see. And I don't see it working out. Doug Flutie is like literally the only exception to the rule.
I mean, in a way, it's fair. I don't know. I don't think he flames out that quickly, and like that's sort of how it's looking. I didn't wake up today thinking I was gonna have to defend Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray for sure didn't think that in like any day of the week. But yeah, no, I don't know.
They should have kept Rosen.
Um,
They should have kept Rosen, man.
uh,
Can I just say that?
I don't know.
Can I just say that little back and forth between you two? I was just sitting here and I was saying to myself, I am so glad I asked you two to be my co-host on this show.
This has been
I mean,
fun.
and obviously, like it's out of respect and everything. It's just it's one of those where I don't think, like if let's say they kept Rosen and everything, like they gave him his shot and everything. Who do they take at one then? They're not taking Bosa.
I would have traded out and got more picks. They need more help.
Yeah.
Who's to say that they for sure would have had that though? Like it's always easy to say, oh, well, just trade back or just trade up or this or that.
You know there
But,
was
like,
other teams.
but-
you
that
need
were
another
interested in
team, too.
Kyler.
But in this instance though, to me, if they traded back, you definitely would have had a trade partner in the New York Giants, because you saw the Giants took a
That's
quarterback.
fair.
The Giants would have definitely
I-
jumped on the chance to take Kyler
I-
Murray.
I think honestly though, like as weird as this one's about to sound, and I can't believe how many times I've said that phrase. I think Jones was the person Gettleman wanted all along. I'm not saying that it was a great pick or anything, but I feel like that's who they wanted all along. Like, I mean, I'm hoping obviously in like this Earth 1958 or whatever, like this alternate Earth, Gettleman didn't trade up and take Jones over Kyler, but I feel like there's somewhere out there where he did.
I was about to say, if to ensure that he has his quarterback of the future, Gettleman might have took him at one, but definitely I feel like if they have traded that number one, if they kept Rosen and traded number one, the Giants would have been trying to get that pick, and they probably still have OBJ to this day. Because I feel like if the Giants felt like they could have got that pick, they wouldn't have traded him. But
But that trade happened before the like draft itself, correct?
Right. That's what I'm saying. I felt like the
All right.
Giants wouldn't have made that move. And, because now you have at number one, you most likely Eli is not going to finish the who?
Jesus,
Eli's.
Yeah.
Jesus, Keith, quit sharpening knives.
I didn't do anything.
But yeah, to be the Giants wouldn't have traded OBJ if. But now that they drafted him later, I mean, and it's weird. I mean, what's the difference between one and the spot they picked him up at? But expectations in the NFL basically happen on what pick it you go. If you're number one, you start this year now. There,
Yeah, no,
you at
absolutely.
most get what 3-4 games to sit on the bench, and
Maybe
you're in.
1-2.
If I would say
Exactly.
if you're super lucky, and I shouldn't use the word lucky, but let's say like if you have an Eli in front of you, they may let Eli start for 4 or 5 games, and then roll you out
But at
if
one,
Eli isn't just like god awful the first like 2 or 3 games.
I was about to say, but yeah, if he got drafted at one, he starts week one, and he starts week one in Dallas.
Yeah,
That's fair.
that,
That's
they
fair.
have to, especially for the return that they got on Rosen. I mean, they have no other choice but to start Kyler Murray week one, game one.
Oh well, they have the Cardinals for sure. I just meant like other teams in this hypothetical where they trade down and keep Rosen. Like if that other team has a a QB of the like I'll use the word present, then they can let Kyler or Daniel Jones or whoever them one ended up being
Develop on the bench for a
sit.
couple games.
Yeah,
Okay,
sit for a couple games.
yeah, I get that. In the Giants' case, I would start it like let's say if Kyler Murray joined the Giants, I would start Kyler Murray over Eli personally because
That's fair.
Eli's kind of he's slow. Their offensive line isn't that great, but they do have the weapons, or they did have the weapons prior to the
Yeah.
OBJ trade. And Saquon Barkley, uh, he's going to take a lot of heat off of a quarterback because he is pretty darn talented. So personally, if he went to the Giants, I would start Kyler game one. If he went to pretty much any other team, I can't really think of any team off the top of my head at this point, other than maybe the Broncos, where he should start later in the season. The Broncos, I would definitely say maybe first or second week if he went there. Raiders, I'd let him sit on the bench. Um, Probably even for a full season. Just let him sit on the bench.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, Carr's still young enough to where you could build his trade value, if nothing else.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you've got to find a trade partner to kind of take that contract off the books. The Jags, if you didn't pick up Foles, I would start him right away. Yeah,
Yeah, but now they're stuck with him for 4 years.
that was a
Paying
great.
big money.
That's for another episode, but I think that was
Yeah.
I think that was a great pickup. They really needed that. Foles is going to actually kind of shock the world this year. I really think, but that's beside the point. We're talking about how crappy Kyler Murray is in the Arizona Cardinals. all this.
And we had
I'm glad you brought that full circle.
Yeah.
So
And we
glad
had-
you brought that full circle.
we had joked around before in our meeting before this show that Max was going to spend about 30 minutes on the Cardinals, and damn if we
He
ain't supposed to
found
about
a
spend
way.
we ain't about what 30 minutes on the Cardinals here.
Yeah, I think so.
He found a way to make the Cardinals the talk of this division.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Everybody else is boring compared to the Cardinals because there's just I have so much rage at them right now, and I'm not even a Cardinals fan. Like, I don't like any team in the NFC West. It's just I absolutely for some reason something about them irks me so much, and I can't put my finger on it. Maybe I'm just a football fan that likes common decency for respected players like Larry Fitzgerald, and he deserves so much better than what he's actually been given. I'm not sure. It's just, at this point, the Cardinals are the bane of my existence. Okay.
And you know
Well,
and
Jimmy
the
Garoppolo's on line one. If we want to move on.
Yeah, that's where
that's
I'm
a good
headed.
that's a good segue. There you go, Keith.
Yeah, that's where I'm headed. Okay, enough of this Cardinals talk. Let's talk about to me the most intriguing team in the NFC West. It's kind of whatever way you look at it, they could either be a, a division contender or kind of middle of the pack team in the San Francisco 49ers. Honestly, they've made some interesting moves over the last couple of years, and I think they're poised to do something. What are your guys' thoughts on the 49ers? Let's start with you, Keith.
49er wise, I'm torn sort of on where I feel like this team is because I'm not as sold on Garoppolo as everybody else is, but I still think that he could be a good quarterback for them. I mean, they have pieces. Kittle is amazing. McKinnon should come back healthy. The Tevin Coleman addition will help them out as well. Defense wise, they're young, but they're talented as well. It's weird to not fully be sure where I stand with them because I mean they could be as high as challenging the Rams for the division, or they could be what we have them or like how we discuss them right now, the fourth team in the division, and it's odd because I don't know. And special weird shout out that didn't expect to happen, but um, I in a league that all of us was in last year. I had to auto draft, and I auto drafted McKinnon. Uh, Funny enough, it was promised that the backup was also going to be sent to me, but I digress because there are certain people out there in the world can who can say one thing but then do something completely different.
Daniel.
And that's
Daniel.
just gonna get that out real quick and go back to the podcast.
Very, very, very well done, Keith. Very well done. We don't know who you're talking about at all.
That's fair. I mean, I don't want to start anything. I just wanted to get that out real quick that I've sat on that for like a year now, and I haven't really had to talk about the 49ers until now. So it like basically got brought back up.
Yeah, all those feelings and such, right?
Oh yeah, it was fun.
But you know what?
I still won that league.
I was about to say
everybody,
that was the poetic justice though of last year was that you actually won that league.
Yep.
Which is surprising considering how in shambles your team was at the very beginning. I remember I was driving back from I believe it was Springfield. We went to the Bass Pro Shop big aquarium that they had down there. So I auto draft that league as well, and I look at your team, and I'm like, oh, Keith got screwed. That was the worst auto draft I've ever seen, and then you end up winning the league, and I think I came in like darn near last place in that league.
Like I got Le'Veon Bell as my first pick. First fucking pick.
Beep.
Damn it,
Yeah,
Keith!
I know.
I didn't expect this from you now.
I'm sorry.
You son of a bitch.
Like, see that one wasn't on me. That one.
It was
not.
definitely on
Oh.
you. Look what you made me
But
do.
no, like ended up with, and I still ended up. I think I found a way to trade him somehow, so that was great.
Yeah, I think you did end up trading him, and you definitely pulled out that victory, which was very surprising. Hats off to you, Keith, for being a magician when it comes to trading away a horrible team and turning it into a championship team.
Got a fifth of the money I was owed and no championship belt. But I'm not salty. I'm not salty at all.
It's the actual win that counts. Everything else is just, additional things.
Yeah.
It's just
how you pay bills. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
But no, it
With
was great,
Kyle-
honestly.
with Kyle Shanahan standing outside waiting to get in.
Yep, he sure is.
We've digressed
But
so much today. I love it.
but
So much.
but coming back around though onto the real life 49ers though. I mean, me personally, I'm up on this team. Like, I mean, to me, their pickups in the offseason were basically what they needed. And I feel like this team is closer to being not this year, but closer to being a contender to the Rams for the division championship than being down there with Seattle and wherever in the hell that Max has Arizona.
Negative 47
Because
wins this year.
but I mean, it's just that looking at their moves, they picked up Quan Alexander, decent pickup. They picked up Tevin Coleman. They picked up Jordan Matthews, who you do,
Yeah, I mean they did pick up those guys, and then they also added D Ford through trade.
Mm-hmm.
And who else they got?
We won't speak of that sensitive subject either with you and D Ford.
Oh, I hate that guy. I hate him so much. Man, he was 4 inches over the line. Please. we won that. We won that game, and he had to be offside with 4 inches. His damn fingers were over the line. But whatever.
Let's reel it back in. Back to the 49ers.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So yeah, they did make some really interesting pickups, and they've definitely added through the draft. I mean, honestly, their wide receivers were nothing to write home about.
Literally nothing.
Yeah, literally nothing to write home about. And they picked up Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd. What do you think about those guys?
I feel like they can't be any worse than what they had. That's how I feel about them.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, they didn't do too bad last year with not having Garoppolo there. And to have Garoppolo come back and them add in 2 wide receivers that could possibly add in 2 wide receivers through the draft and add in Jordan Matthews, and then still have George Kittle there, and then adding in Tevin Coleman to their kind of lackluster running game, and McKinnon's coming back, that offense can do some pretty darn good things in my opinion. Like, I could see them being one of the top offenses on the NFC side if they can kind of mesh together.
I mean, as far as those who go, I mean, nothing could be worse than the days of Pierre Garçon being the number 1 receiver in San Francisco when he's well over the hill.
Man, Garçon could barely be like a number 2 or number 3 wide receiver in Washington. What makes you think? What makes any team think that he could be a number 1 on a team? That was a horrible year last year. They got dealt quite a few blows. Honestly, I kind of like San Francisco this year. I think
I do too.
I think they could be a wild card team. I think they could surprise a couple and overtake the Hawks this year and kind of give LA a run for their money. And we all know where Arizona's going to end up at. So honestly, they could do some pretty cool things this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make it in the playoffs and maybe steal a win on the road in a wild card game or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, because Kyle Shanahan, he's like, well, we won't go for the last 2 episodes that Keith's been on, but I mean, he turned Kirk Cousins into an $84 million man. I mean, to me, he's got a better talent than Garoppolo out there, and hopefully he'll have him for the whole season. So, the sky's the limit to me for the 49ers. Bright days are ahead for this team.
Speaking,
go ahead, Keith.
Sorry about the interjection. Speaking about the $84 million man, just thought about another quarterback I'd take over him, Beathard.
CJ?
So thanks for that. Indeed.
Wow.
So thanks for that.
Wow.
Damn.
That's wow, Keith.
Oh my,
He's on a mission today.
we've had a lot of
$84 million just pretty much
we've
set on fire.
we've had a lot of revelations in this show today.
Yeah.
A lot.
For some reason, we have some really hard feelings towards a couple NFC teams today. It feels like so.
I can see that. I just have that toward Cousins. That's it. Or that's not it, but like toward Cousins. That's the one player that like fully I love players getting their money, but
Not the way Cousins
I
did it.
I don't see it, boss. I don't see it.
I don't see it either. I actually kind of agree with you. Cousins is actually fleecing the Vikings.
I don't. Oh, he's more than fleecing. He is straight up like
Strong arm robbery.
Strong
Arm robbery.
Like we were talking about before the show. Maybe we should have him on about our new podcast.
Oh, like he is truly getting away with it. Like he should be in like the strongest man competition for how strong arm he is right now.
Jeez. Well,
Is this how I'm going to be with the AFC North when we get to it?
yeah.
Because just y'all wait till we get to the AFC North.
Oh man,
you got the.
I just know Manziel's gonna get brought up. I just know it. Just because I said I'd take him over Cousins. Just because of.
Well, I guess we should just give David fair warning, just not to listen to that episode.
Oh, you might as well skip that one because I don't have anything good to say about the Bengals besides AJ Green. Like
skip it.
Literally nothing.
Yeah.
Skip it. I'm going
I
to
like Boyd though.
That's fair.
skip the
Boyd's
episode.
nice, too.
I'm going to go to David's house and make him listen to the episode of me sitting right there. So he's not going to skip that one. Y'all can forget that.
That's because you're
Oh,
sadistic,
man,
Eric.
Yeah, you're literally gonna watch the man cry.
Actually,
Straight
no.
up.
Actually, I'm going to have him on. I'm going to have him, Richard.
Oh.
I'm going to see if I can have him, Richard, and Dave on for that episode with us. Just so I can look at him while we record that episode, and just to look on his face.
We talk about background noise all the time, and like the background noise is gonna be him crying, like the whole episode.
Man, this episode's jam packed with stuff. Whoever listens to this episode, I apologize in advance for our ramblings of
This isn't advanced. They've been through it all now.
Yeah, true.
That could
true.
be
Never mind. I mean, okay, since we're you might need some counseling or something after this episode from our ramblings of mad people, but let's wrap this show up before we just go on another hour tangent about the Bengals and how we're gonna make David cry. So
that's gonna be a 3-hour episode there.
Yeah.
But keep going.
Yeah, because we got another episode to record after this, so we gotta wrap this one up. Okay, Eric, record predictions for the NFC West. Go.
Give me at the bottom, starting from the bottom and going to the top. Because we're gonna start from the bottom and now we're here. But give me the Cardinals at around 3-13, 4-12, somewhere around there. Seahawks at about 6-10, 7-9. Give me San Francisco at right around 8-8, and the Rams somewhere around 11-5, 10-6.
That's quite a few. That's pretty low win totals for the entire division, from what I see. Keith, where are you sitting?
Let's see. I mean, it's probably sort of close to the same. Yeah, probably close to right around the same record. I could see it. It's one of those. I'm probably gonna go back and forth about it and think about it even more later, and then be like, oh, well, I probably should have been this.
To me, it's just that the NFC West is going to have a hard time doing anything to top an NFC South team to try to get in. And you'll see what I mean when we get to the NFC South preview and I talk more about those teams. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's going to be tough for them to get past the NFC South to get a wild card spot.
Yeah, I'm with you. So here's where I sit with my predictions. All right, so I'm gonna start at the bottom, and they're always gonna be at the bottom. 1-15 for the Cardinals. So 1-15 for the Cardinals. Seahawks 7-9. 49ers 11-5.
Oh my!
Rams 13-3.
I almost had to,
boy!
I almost had to use the bleep button on myself.
Oh my goodness! I was not ready for that.
I won't either.
I give you credit. I was not ready for that.
I'm here to shock the world, guys. That's why you have me on here. I'm gonna cuss
At
up
the
a
49
storm. You're gonna bleep me out, and I'm gonna make some wild predictions.
If the 49ers go 11-5,
No, that's a fair point. I really give you that.
yeah, it is. I mean,
really give you that.
it can happen, but
Boy.
if they go 11-5, pencil them in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah,
I
I see some crazy stuff happening this year.
They going 11-5, and like Garoppolo is probably right there in the MVP race.
Right there,
My
he
goodness.
probably. And Kyle Shanahan, I mean, if he did turn Kirk Cousins into an $84 million man, he's going to turn Garoppolo into a $150 million man if they go 11-5.
All guaranteed.
Oh,
All
yeah.
guaranteed.
Damn right, it's all guaranteed.
Oh man, well,
Oh man.
this has been a fun episode, guys. So
It
Absolutely.
it has,
thank you guys.
but I was go ahead. You can close it out.
Well, no, you go ahead. I opened it up. You do it.
Okay. Well, check us out on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. At Facebook, we're at Sports Fanatics United. Instagram, same. And on Twitter, it's Forever Fanatics with the number 4. For my co-hosts, Max Briggs, Keith Patrick, I'm Eric Good. We'll talk to you next time.